Welcome back to Driving Maul on Loud Radio. It's time to chat to Rich Freeman in Yokohama in Japan. Just going to get him on the line.
Thanks for the heads up, 2 songs, I'm chilling, relaxing, all of a sardine.
Who said 2 songs?
You did.
Did I?
Yes, sure. Okay, right.
Now.
Oh,
you've confused me with the whole.
That's fine. It's not difficult to confuse you. Anyway, we're going to jump on the line to Rich in a few moments, but okay.
Hello?
Rich Freeman, welcome to Driving Maul on Loud Radio. How are you today, sir?
Hello?
Rich, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. You
Rich,
hear me?
it's Sean from Judge Rugby and Don's on the other end, but how you doing, bud?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very good, mate. Very good. Firstly, welcome to Driving Maul on Loud Radio, and thanks very much for taking the time.
No problems at all. My pleasure.
So just give us a quick little breakdown, who you are, what you do. Well, what takes you to Japan besides rugby? Or is it only rugby?
Well, I've been here about 20 years now. I was initially teaching and then started coaching at a junior high school. And then about 15 years ago, started writing about rugby. And I guess the demand grew and now I'm a full-time rugby writer over here.
Well, great. That's awesome when the guys get to do what they love, huh?
Yeah, that's very true. Nothing
Rich,
better than watching rugby and getting paid to watch it.
No, absolutely. That's so we're trying to get ourselves to get paid to drink beer, watch rugby, and talk shit. What I wanted to ask you is that I'm not sure if you're aware, but in South Africa we've been crying for coverage of the Japanese rugby for the last couple of seasons with all the South Africans who are over there playing. And in the last 2 months, I believe, they've now started broadcasting. Most of them are recorded. Sometimes we get the live ones, but it means that we're actually getting to see what goes on as opposed to just reading about it in the press from guys like yourselves. But the one thing I'm trying to get to understand is it looks to me like there's 2 aspects to Japanese rugby, because you've obviously got the Japan Rugby Top League, which was won by Suntory Sun Goliath. But then now at the moment there's the Japan National Championship on. Is that like a cup competition? How does it all work?
Yeah, to give you a bit of background, what used to happen in the past was you used to have the corporate rugby, which was a sort of an amateur-run competition run by the companies, and then there was the university championship. And basically, the All Japan title was basically the winner of the company tournament against the winner of the university tournament. But in the last 20 years or so, 25 years, it became fairly obvious that it was becoming more and more one-sided.
Right.
Particularly with the advent of the top league and professionalism. And so the Japan Rugby Union started to, the tournament has changed its format just about every year.
Okay.
So what you have is, you have the top league, which was actually won by Panasonic this year. The All Japan Championship features this year, it's the top 4 university teams, the top 4 teams from the top league, plus 2 others who played a wild card tournament.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I was reading the Suntory lost to Panasonic in the final. Okay, got there.
Now, what you basically have, this weekend is the semi-final, and it's the same 4 teams that were in the top league playoffs.
Yeah, well, that's what I picked.
There is a call for a bigger change to the competition, because really, the top league final should be the end of the season. It should be the pinnacle. Yeah. Craig Wing from Kobe Steel, I was talking with him last week, and he sort of dubbed this All Japan Championship as the second chance tourney, because it gives teams a second chance to maybe win a bit of silverware.
Now, those 2 quarterfinals that were played this weekend, Kobe got up over Yamaha Jabulo 28-26, and Toshiba up over Toyota Verblitz 24-21. They sound like they were 2 cracking games, though.
Absolutely brilliant games, which some people want this tournament abandoned, but the whole cup tournament, the cup format and that sudden death knockout. Last weekend, David Hill scored a drop goal for Toshiba with 2 minutes left. Kobe got over the line again with about 2 minutes left. Great atmosphere, 2 great games, and we had the Emperor of Japan watching the second half of the Kobe game. So it was a pretty good weekend.
And now the semis are Kobe versus Panasonic and Toshiba versus Suntory Goliath, and you say those are this weekend?
Yeah, that's this weekend. So I talked with Jacques Ferry last weekend. He's obviously very keen. The last time Kobe played Panasonic in the league, they lost by just 1 point, so they're obviously up for a bit of revenge.
Yeah, well, from a Stormers perspective,
have had 3 weeks off though, so they should be quite refreshed.
well, from a Stormers perspective, we'd like Kobe to fall over so that we can get Peter Grant back and hopefully get this backline of ours moving. But time will tell, I guess.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I'm not sure why he can't go back now, because he was in the stands last weekend, and I think he's only played about 1 or 2 games this year for Kobe anyway. So
Don't wind me up.
Rich, I just wanted to move away from the tournament as it was now and sort of find out from the players' side and from the professional era, because we obviously, watching the Viva Premiership and the international games and the Super Rugby, what's the lifestyle like for the players that have moved out of that into the top 14? Because I've seen images of the players all going to a game in little motorbike taxis and stuff like that. Is it a good fun time for the guys?
I think it is. I think the one thing that they all like is the fact that they live very close to the training grounds. Depending obviously on who they have coaching them, the training sessions a couple of hours in the morning, a couple of hours in the afternoon. So they get to spend a lot of time with their family. And, if you talk to most of the players, that's one of the biggest benefits they have is the fact that whilst the season is on, they have a lot of time to spend with their families. It's also not the longest season. Most of the players will be done this week or next week, and then they probably won't have to be back till June or July, depending on their contract, for pre-season training.
And then just in terms of the level and the intensity, there's a perception out in the rest of the world that the guys go there to extend their careers by playing a softer in terms of the physicality side of things, game of rugby. But does that ring true, or does it get quite boisterous and feisty out there?
It gets fairly feisty. I think that generally, obviously, the players aren't quite as big as Super Rugby players, so the physicality isn't always as high a level as Super Rugby. It's probably as quick, if not quicker. But this whole myth of players going to Japan just to finish off their careers, I mean, Muls Muliaina had a pretty good run out last weekend for the Chiefs. And there's been quite a few. I mean, Tony Brown had a couple of reasonably good seasons down in South Africa whilst he was still over here. Yeah.
And I mean, George Smith didn't exactly disappoint in the rugby championship last season either.
Right. I think there's a couple of, 3 Springboks as well that are playing over here that haven't done too badly.
Well, we watched a few of the games, and technically the rugby was good. I did enjoy it. It was just it's quite evident that the sort of natural player off the cuff wasn't quite there for the Japanese guys, because they haven't really grown up too much with the game, whereas instinct takes over for a lot of the Australians and New Zealanders, the Samoans and the South Africans. So that'll come with time, but I was well impressed with it. It wasn't I've seen worse leagues in the world, and it was quite impressive. I look forward to seeing how it grows.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sums up Japanese rugby. It sums up a lot of Japanese sport in that it is very overcoached at the younger levels. When they're at junior high school and high school, they have to obey the coach. There is no way that you can do anything on the field that the coach hasn't really called. I mean, my own point of view,
much like the Stormers then.
In Japan and played some club rugby, I remember the coach handing me a playbook and trying to call the moves from the sidelines, and I just said at half time that I've played a bit of rugby, I'll call it as I see it. And that is the problem, that from junior high school, even at university, they play to a rigid system. You look at the university games here, they all play the same type of game where kick out of their 22, force a mistake, and then just try and go pick and go. And there's very little in the way of, as you say, off-the-cuff play.
Now, I just wanted to sort of touch on the South Africans and the one thing that has come out, that you mentioned to us about Peter Grant, because most of the Capetonians and the Stormers supporters are desperate to get Peter Grant back, and I'm a massive fan of his, and he's missed quite a bit of Super Rugby. But obviously Jacques Ferry, JP Peterson and the likes are doing pretty well up there. The other part of that question is the rumor about Jacques Burger that's popped up a few times. Skulk Burger that has popped up a few times that he might that he's making a move over there. What are your thoughts on that?
I've heard the same rumor. both from South Africa and from people in Japan. And George Smith has just said that he's leaving Suntory to go and play in France for 2 years, which opens up a back row spot with Suntory. So
it kind of just makes sense.
It does make sense, and I think he will probably be here fairly soon.
Look, I hope not. We need him for a World Cup. Well, the other thing I wanted to ask you, just in terms of player awards, I mean, Berwick Barnes has ended up. I stand corrected. He's been the best player, the one player of the year, 2 seasons running now. Is that correct?
Berwick Barnes won it this year. George Smith won it the 2 previous years before that. Yeah.
And then Jacques Fourie ended up top try scorer in 17 tries. How many games did they play for that? Out of interest.
They played 13. I think he played all 13. I'm not sure he missed one, possibly.
It's a pretty good strike rate.
That try score record's only for the regular season. So, I mean, actually, I stand corrected. It's 2 more teams in the league this year.
Okay.
So the maximum number of games would have been 15, but I think he might have missed a couple.
Okay. But still a pretty good strike rate.
It's not a bad strike rate, but I mean, I joked with him last week, though, because in the first round of the All Japan Championship, Kobe Steel beat Keio University 100-0, but the students were one of the first teams this year to actually keep Jacques tryless.
Oh, impressive.
Yeah, he's been scoring. I keep following and find out who's scoring the tries, and he scores almost weekly. But for your team to score 100 points and Fourie not to score a try, that's not bad.
I think he was just doing a bit of passing practice that day, to be honest.
Draw and play.
Now, obviously, we can pick up a bit of an accent there. So, your thoughts on what's going on in Europe in terms of the Six Nations this year, with it being blown wide open this weekend?
I mean, great games. Unfortunately, with the time difference, they're on very late here, which is a bit of a problem. But I grew up supporting Scotland as a kid, so it was great to watch them beat Italy. But my accent will tell you I'm probably more English, so that was also a good win. Yeah, and Wales suddenly showing that their display in Dublin was not the display that they would have liked. So it's a very interesting competition. I mean, for me, the thing that I really miss about it more than anything, especially being in Japan, is just listening to the passion of the crowd and the noise of the crowd and the feeling there. It's just unbelievable.
Well, I mean, the Six Nations is properly hotting up with 2 games to go and 4 sides on 4 points. So it really kind of boils down to next week.
But I mean, and just to put it in context, Italy versus Scotland for the wooden spoon, 65,000 people in the stadiums in Rome.
I know, unbelievable. And I mean, that same weekend, the biggest crowd, though, well, not the biggest crowd, but the amazing crowd was Georgia-Russia. For a World Cup qualifier, 55,000. Unbelievable.
I know, massive. Just one thing, I think, in closing, I want to find out with the top league and a lot of the international guys coming down and playing. How is that? Have you seen a sort of the Japanese rugby lift up a little bit? Has it helped in the international side of things?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at this year and the fact that they pushed Scotland for 60 minutes. Okay, they lost by 50 to the All Blacks, but that didn't really... I mean, the first 3 All Black tries were all from Japan mistakes. Japan then turned around after beating Wales and beat Canada and America in the space of 7 days.
Yeah.
So just by training... I mean, the classic example is Fumiaki Tanaka, who... developed so much as a player by training alongside Tony Brown and learning what it meant to be a professional rugby player. And, the foreigners that come here that give back to the local players, you just see that the local players develop so much as a result. Yeah,
to the degree that they're now starting to pop up in the Super Rugby sides.
Yep, there's 3 there now. Possibly 2 more might go. We're not sure because there's a slight change in the rules down in Australia. They can pick an extra player. But, yeah.
Imagine that.
Good times. Well, Rich, but thank you very much for the time and good luck with the rest of Suicide Hour and the kids. And we look forward to chatting to you again soon.
No problems, anytime. Just give us a shout.
And Rich, just to confirm, it's at Freeman Rugby Jap on Twitter. If anyone wants to follow you,
not the most politically correct name. Unfortunately, I didn't realise that there was a limit to the number of letters, so the AN at the end of Japan fell off. But Freeman Rugby Jap.
Good times. Well, we look forward to getting some information out of you, and we'll definitely chat to you again soon.
Cheers, mate. Thanks very much indeed.
Rich Simmons, thanks so much for joining us on Driving Maul. Enjoy the rest of the weekend's rugby.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I do enjoy chatting to guys in different parts of the world and finding out about what's happening. And obviously the Japanese rugby has been the only reason why we're focusing on it, because we've got so many books there, but we want to make sure that they're doing the right thing. But I'm glad that it's building up there, and very interesting to hear how their leagues and everything's set up.
Indeed, and the fact that they change it every week. The other thing we forgot to do was say to Rich, he made a request. He wanted to listen to some Johnny Clegg, so we're going to play a little bit of Johnny Clegg and Savuka Impi, which is quite apt considering we were talking about Springboks playing in Japan. You're listening to Driving Maul on Loud Radio. We'll be back after this.
Impi, Onansi Pieza. Ubani benga chinta mabubesi Impi Onansi mpieza Ubani benga chinta mabubesi Impi Onansi mpieza Ubani benga chinta mabubesi Impi Onansi pieza, ubani benga tinta mabubesi.
All along the river, Chelmsford's army lay asleep. Come to crush the children of Mageba, come to exact the realm's price for peace. And in the morning, as they saddled up to ride, their eyes shone with the fire and the steel. The general told them of the task that lay ahead, to bring the people of the sky to heal.
Impi, Onansi pieza, ubani benga tinta mabubesi. Impi, Onansi pieza, ubani benga tinta mabubesi.
Mud and sweat on polished leather, warm rain seeping to the bone. They rode through the season's wet weather, straining for a glimpse of the foe. Hopeless battalion, destined to die, broken by the benders of kings. Vainglorious general, Victorian pride, would cost him and 800 men their lives.
Impi, Onansi pieza, ubani benga tinta mabubesi. Impi, Onansi pieza, ubani benga tinta mabubesi.
They came to the side of a mountain. Scouts rode out to spy the land. Even as the round soldiers lay resting, Macabe's forces were soon at hand. And by the evening, the vultures were wheeling above the ruins where the fallen lay. An ancient song, as old as the ashes, echoed as Macabe's warriors marched away.
Impi, Onansi pieza, ubani benga tinta mabubesi. Impi, Onansi pieza, ubani benga tinta mabubesi. Impi, Onansi pieza, ubani benga tinta mabubesi. siyeza ubani